Have you wanted to teach your kids or students how to create a puppet show, but you're not sure where to start? Well, then this video is for you. Hi, I'm Nicole, the drama teacher behind Be Free in Design, and today we're going to look at my puppet show creation unit. You can do this with young kids or with older kids. I right now am working with middle school kids, so 6th and 7th graders, but I have done this unit with my Drama 1 students that were 9th graders and they had a blast with it. I also did teach preschool before I got my degree in drama, and I did puppets with them. We didn't do full puppet shows. They didn't write scripts, obviously, but we created the puppets and did little scenarios with them, and it was a really great time. So I'll show you how to scaffold all of that. This should work for English, drama, speech, and also homeschool, any after school program that you're doing with a lot of kids or library programs. This is a really fun way to do this. So without further ado, let's get into it. I will be referring to my puppet show units because that is how I teach them. I do have them on Teachers Pay Teachers, but I'm going to show you every step I take and everything I do to have created this product. So if you don't want to spend money or don't have the money and you want to create it on your own or want to do different things, of course, this video will teach you how to do that. Or if you would like, you can hop on over and support me on my Teachers Pay Teachers. I have 3 different units. One is the unit you see in front of me, a 16-day unit that is included the character voices. But also I have one without character voices for English teachers or small groups. I used to do after school programs with it. And then I have an elementary school bundle, and I'll show you the differences. But you will be able to do this on your own. All right, we're going to scroll down. This is what I teach, and this is the packet that I teach from. I'm going to scroll down past my sub plans and all of the teacher plans that I've got and get right to the worksheet. So you do not need worksheets to be able to do this, but I have 36 students in my class generally, sometimes even more. And when we do after school clubs, if we do puppet shows, I use this. So I have this worksheet so that they can take it and be accountable when they go into other spaces to be able to work on their stuff and then come back and show us. So I'm going to be showing you the puppet show plus my voice stuff because I use puppet shows to teach dramatic voice and inflections and also mechanisms and all of that stuff. We'll get into that in a little bit, but you do not need to do that. And I don't do it for the younger kids. I only do the puppet show for the younger kids. And then I'll show you the video that I play for them, or the videos that I play for them that help them create. So right here, I have that they have to be in a group of 1 to 4 actors. They can't have more than 2 puppets because they don't have more than 2 hands. And then they need a title introduction, 2 to 4 minutes long at least. I do at least 1 minute per person. If I have bigger groups, I do have them create bigger puppet shows, and I ask them to try to even out the lines a little bit. So in drama, complete sequence of events is very important. You don't want the puppet show to be boring. So they need characters, they need a conflict, and then a conclusion to that conflict. And then they use different voices to portray different characters. So if they've chosen to do 2 puppets, they need to have 2 different voices. They should not be using the same voice for both characters. And then, of course, being loud and clear. I do not give them microphones for this project. We only use microphones when absolutely necessary because I feel like it stifles the projection and makes them rely on microphones more often. So with younger kids, I also would probably allow them to use microphones, or at least a microphone backstage so that they can kind of pick them up a little further than the puppet show. My puppet shows are only for people because I only have a puppet show space that allows for kids to be behind. No additional kids or bodies could be back there. But if you have a bigger space, then that would probably be able to change. And you don't have to keep any of this. If you do purchase my product, it's all editable so that you can change it. Here is our daily expectations. So this lets the kids know where we're at. I'm going to show it to you specifically because this is your outline for your class. So this is what days, how long this takes me. I am going to jump down here to the daily lessons that we do or what we do each time. So I do talk about puppets. I'll show you my puppet show slideshow, and I'm going to tell you what I tell my students when I'm teaching puppets. So I give them 3 days to write their script. A quick note for script writing right here. So when I have my students do their scripts, we have not learned how to write scripts yet. This is their 2nd unit they do. We do our script writing as our 5th unit, I think, maybe our 4th. And so all I tell them is for the script, I need their name and then what their character says, and then the next name and what the character says, back and forth. That way they are starting to get script writing, but they're not really great at it yet, which is understandable. I haven't taught it. And so I do let them highlight their lines depending on whose line it is, or change the color of text if they're typing it. However, I do tell them if you highlight, it has to be a light color so I can read it. If you do text changes, like the color of the text changes, has to be dark colors because, again, I have to be able to read it. Because they always want to highlight in dark colors and write the text in light colors for some reason. And then when I print it off, if I print it off 5 times, then it just doesn't look good and I can't make it work. But if it's dark greens, dark purples, dark blues, totally good with me. So right here for the elementary school teachers, I do not have them write their own scripts. Really, not really, like at all. But this is what I've done with my preschool kids in the past. Now, my preschool kids, there was 2 teachers and we didn't have a ton of kids when we would do this. But also this would work great for more independent thinkers in elementary school. I did this. Oh, sorry, that's the wrong slide. So I have a couple of scripts. I have 3 scripts. They've got 4 kids each. So we had 12 kids with us. And we've got 4 students in it. And then as a group, they pick whatever it says in the box. So mine is 1 place and 1 superpower. Then they fill in the plots below with the place or the superpower. And then they have their own script that they wrote, kind of, so that they've got the format. And then they can use this to say their lines. I do not expect them to memorize it. But if they do the little video that is the PowerPoint of puppets, and then they make their puppets and they do this when they're just coloring and cutting out the boxes. I've got 4 scripts that are in mine and they're all the same format of 3 scripts, 4 kids each in mine. And it's just, hey, pick this from above. I'm hoping to make more of these scripts. These were really fun. So yeah, just a page long. All right, let's move on. But here is the puppet show creation day. So we have 3 days that we work on different puppets. And then we have 2 days of character voice. I do all of the puppets and group work and creating the scripts and everything before character voice because I have them take their puppets and decide on their character voice during my character voice slides that are those 2 days. And we practice with them and we partner up and just test some different phrases out. So I would recommend doing it after you've created the puppets if you're going to teach the character voice section. And then we've got group rehearsals. They're trying to accomplish being able to do it during these days with no script. They can use a script until they get to there. And then right here is our preview days. So they show each other because I want them to always practice before they show the full audience, and then no script so that they know if they're memorized. We have the rest of that day after they show each other to perfect it, make sure it is memorized, give them a few minutes to fix things. And then we have class performances. And then I do a voice test at the very end. We're going to start into our puppets. I'm going to back up. Okay. So this is the lessons that I would give for elementary school kids. So that first page I would do, but this one, define what puppetry is and what a puppeteer is. I have a PowerPoint for this. Let me grab it. I give this slideshow portion of the slideshow to elementary and middle school and junior high and 9th grade students. So it's talking about what is a puppet show and what are the different puppets that we use. I'm going to go over this the exact same way that I would explain it to my students so that you know what to say and how to say it. So yeah, first off, we do go over the definitions. On the worksheet right here, you'll see this line. I have students write notes. The notes are these underlined portions of the slideshow. I do that because I have dyslexia. And so in school, it was really hard for me to find my spot. And so I want them to be able to find their spots easily, but also that way they know they don't need to write everything down, because I'll have a couple students writing really teeny trying to get it all in, which they don't need to do. So I would say, welcome. So puppetry is the act of manipulating or operating an inanimate object to give it character or personality. If you are not giving it character or personality, then it is not operating a puppet. You can't just have something and move it around. It has to have a voice. It has to have some kind of a character. And then a puppeteer is a person that manipulates the puppet in real time to create the art of illusion. We talk about voiceovers in my Drama 2 lesson. We do voiceovers with Drama 2 kids. But in this one, I tell them it has to be in real time to create the illusion of life, or it's considered a voiceover, and that's not what we're doing for puppetry. So we're going to watch, we won't watch, but I would have my students watch this video in the next slide. It's an awesome video. It's about puppetry, and these guys from Sesame Street talk about the different styles of puppets that they use and how they use them and how they create the voices for them. So I love this video. And then we have the types of puppets. There's many different types of puppets. We are going to go over some of the most common puppets, but we know there's a lot more. So we will not have time to talk about all the different types of puppets, especially puppets from other countries. We would save that again for more of a advanced drama class for me. So puppets from different countries, which is beautiful, but we just do not have time for that in this class. This is only 3-week unit, so we've got to get moving. And then we go to hand puppets. A hand puppet is a puppet that uses the whole hand to operate. Sorry, my dog's breathing through the door wanting me to let her in. Okay. You can use a couple of fingers for the arms and a couple of fingers to operate the mouth. Now, they're usually still writing things down at this point. So then I talk about, oftentimes doctors use it. You can see my picture right here to remind me to say that. And then also when we take pictures of little kids, hand puppets are one of the easiest types of puppets to be able to manipulate and have fun with. And then we move to sock puppets. Sock puppet is a hand puppet made out of a sock puppet is a hand puppet made out of a sock. The puppeteer puts their hand in the sock and then opens and closes their hand to speak for it. Now, this is where I'm going to get a little bit more in depth with these kiddos, especially when I'm doing 9th grade students, because they can use hot glue guns. But 8th grade, and I might do 7th grade depending on the class and how many people are in the class, I show them, and I show them how to make sock puppets, and I allow them to make sock puppets in my class. I will do a separate video of how to make a sock puppet, but I'm going to give you my little explanation that I say here for the students. So I show them a picture of, where's the sock puppet? Oh, here he is, of this little guy. And I'm like, as cute as he is, and he is adorable, he does not work for a sock puppet because his mouth is in a location that, even though, they did put the microphone to it, the mouth cannot open and close. If I put this on my hand, which I always demonstrate for them. So either I'm bending the full face to try to get it to work, or I am like doing this little thing, and that does not really work for what we're doing. So not really a sock puppet, doesn't work for a sock puppet. And then I show them pictures of other sock puppets. And then I show them pictures of sock puppets that do work. So I get the cheapest socks possible when I can, and I have them cut off the bottom just so that it's a little bit more comfortable on their arm, and then make sure that they stuff it in so that the point of their thumb and hand can pinch the interior of the mouth so that it keeps the sock puppet in its correct spot. Because if they don't, then when they open the mouth, it just kind of comes out, and this doesn't really work very well. So they need to be able to pinch that spot and then talk for it. And we come down like this and make it a little easier. My eyeballs are scawampus. So that is the fashion that we want our sock puppets to be. And I've got a bunch of super adorable examples that I show them that other students have made. This one right here is my personal favorite. The other thing that you'll want to make them aware of if they're going to be doing sock puppets is it is the easiest if the knuckles line up with the heel of the sock, if there's a heel in it. If not, you end up getting like a double chin, which, we love our double chins. But if they don't want that for their sock puppet, the heel should be at the top. That way I know where to glue the hair on, or where they're wanting to glue the hair on. And then it makes it a little easier to be able to manipulate. So that is my sock puppet spiel. All right, the next one is paper bag puppets. So a paper bag puppet is one of the easiest ways to create a puppet. It is a hand puppet made out made from putting a face onto a paper bag. So here is my example from Star Wars. And you can have your students or your kids do anything like this that they want to. If you do one of my kits, I do have paper bag puppet faces for them to be able to use. So this is one of mine. It just comes in a kit with all of the eyes together, the lips. I've got mustaches, sunglasses, accessories, bunch of different types of hair, and they cut out each piece, they glue it on, and then they create their paper bag puppet. If you are doing stuff for elementary school, I do not recommend you getting a kit with a bunch of pieces in it. I also have these that I use that I've made in that are in the elementary school puppet unit. That this is a full piece of paper, and I made the top of the mouth, the bottom, the tongue, and then the little outfit. And it's all together. So they color this piece, they cut it out, and then it folds over like that. And then they color this piece. This is all together. There's no cut and copy and paste and make them look like their own individual cute little faces, which I love in middle school, but does not work for younger kids. So then this little line at the bottom, you'll see that I've got a little line right here. Those lines show where it should be glued onto the face. So there's only 2 pieces to cut out and glue on, but they color the entire thing. So that is one major change I would make for elementary school. I used to do these with also my younger kids, preschoolers, but then obviously I didn't do the PowerPoint or anything like that because that is not what we do. We are just making paper bag puppets, and then we had fun and did little shows and ran around that, what is it called? Ran around the playground until they were all broken. So either way works. So that is the easiest and cheapest way for puppets that I have found. Then we go down to rod puppets. These are all puppets my students have used before. So we have a few that have rod puppets that have brought them in, or one that made it a Mario puppet. It was so cute. It's got little those little eye close things. I don't know what they're called. Those little brackets. I'm gonna find out what they're called. All right, he used the eyelets for the armpits, and he had the arms move of Mario, and then they also had the hat on a stick, so they were able to take that and put it on and put it off when they were doing Cappy for a video game, and they spun it and came back. It was adorable. So we've done rod puppets and then finger puppets. Finger puppets are operated from your fingers. The most popular are felt puppets. I do not let them use finger puppets in my plays because we're so far back on the stage, unless it's a baby or an animal, just because I don't want their little teeny finger puppets to be able to not be seen. However, also they can't really move the arms or anything like that. We used to do a unit where we would go to a preschool class and we would do the voices of books and do finger puppets. It was really fun, but doesn't really work for where I'm at right now. And then we've got body puppets. So a full body puppet is a puppet you wear, and puppeteer operates the arms, eyes, legs, and other things to make puppet work. We saw an example of it as Big Bird in the last video. It is not just a costume. So only one time have I had people, they had the eyes that opened and closed that was able to bring in a full body costume, but it was awesome. And we go down to animatronic puppet. An animatronic puppet requires technology to operate. This kind of puppet is less likely to be seen in normal life, so we're going to watch a video about how it works. The animatronic puppets my students have brought into the classroom are, we had a car, like transformer cars that did a battle. And so they use the remote controls for that. And then one like the video I'm going to show you, I won't show you, but I would show the students, which is a dinosaur that was controlled and was eating people. And so I don't usually let them bring a lot of remote stuff into the class, but this is a unit I do allow that to happen. So then we watch this from Jurassic Park. Now, when I'm teaching the elementary school students, I do not watch this video. It's a little bit too scary, I think, for younger kids. So I have another video replaced in that one that is a puppet that is from Jurassic Park, but it's one that they sold as a puppet for a kid's toy. And so it just shows how it works and how the remote and the eyes and stuff work inside of the puppet, which is just more age appropriate, I think. So that's what I did. And then one of the last ones we do, I think we've got two more, is ventriloquist dummy. So a ventriloquist dummy is operated by a person who interacts with it. They are allowed to use this type of a puppet, but that would be when they're in a group by themselves. So when they speak for the dummy, you can see them. So they speak for the dummy without their lips moving. I talked to them about that. I am not good at this. So if they want to choose this one, they need to be able to try it on their own, but I can't really help as much with it. I will do the best I can, but it's not something I'm good at. And then we watched this cute video of her, Darcy Lynn, doing some ventriloquist work. And then we've got the marionette puppet. A marionette puppet is operated by using strings. There are so many different types of marionette puppets. And then we talk about the ones that you would find in parks and like go in parks. That's like the marionette puppets are like playing in parks. No, like when there's fairs, the people bring them and they have the animals and stuff like that. Anyway, so this is the type of puppet that you may have seen in fairs and things like that. You can easily make these with pencils or sticks or anything that they choose and strings with a little animal. After that, we write notes on this video. So right here, notes on it. If you are working with elementary school kids, I would not have them write this many. My little unit is like 2 sentences, but this video actually has the text written on the screen of what should be written down. Here's the first thing. And then they flashed up on the screen, practice, practice, practice. And they write down practice or use different voices, but it flashes on the screen, which I really like. I just say, you don't have to guess on your notes. Please take the notes from the video that it flashes on the screen. And then if I'm working with older kids, this is when they get their planning pages, so they can get up to 4. They can have up to 4 people in their group. We're going to use this paper to help guide the performance. Make sure you fill it out and show it to me before you start typing your script, because they will do something that I do not, that is not appropriate, or have a joke that is not appropriate, or sometimes they just are really often they're not making any sense. And so they have to show me their outline before they write the script. And so here is a way to get started. I give them a bunch of ideas, but I say, you can have it based on a fairy tale, a real life, on real life, on a movie, on a book, from a TV show, or anything you can imagine. And then I just say make sure it's G-rated. No stage combat. I actually had a student break his finger in a puppet show fight. Him and his partner were doing little puppet show, and they were going like this, and they hit one of the thumb hit the pinky, and it broke the finger. So we don't do that anymore. And I explain all of this to the kids as I'm going through this. So I do allow them to do it from shows that are not G-rated as long as their scene is G-rated. So that does not really bother me, but it depends on you and your group of kids you're working with. When they're done with page 4, tell them to grab a computer and type their script. No games. If I find you or anyone in your group on games, you will have to handwrite, I will fix that space, your script instead of typing it. Let your creativity take over. So I tell them this is not really punishment. It's just natural consequences. When I was doing a puppet show unit, when I was in school, we didn't type our script. So we had to handwrite it and had to copy it back and forth because the teacher didn't photocopy it for us. I let them give me one script and I photocopy it for the group, so I still feel like I'm being pretty nice. All right, after that, we go to, right here. I give them 3 days to work. You guys, I love these 3 days as a teacher. I get to go around, watch what they're doing, watch their creativity, figure things out. The other thing I do is take some time at my desk to grade the last unit so that I have a little bit of time and don't have to do it after school as often. So during these work days, I do that. And then I also take the time to set up my puppet creation day. So I have things all around the room or on the back shelf of I've got felt, yarn, googly eyes, the different socks. I've got, of course, all of my paper bags and all of the pieces that go to it. And then if kids get done early and they get done typing their script and they're 100% done, I do have them start memorizing it before they have it 100% done. I tell them to say it out loud and time it. And they write their time at the top of the page so I know how long it is and they know how long it is. And then once they're done, they do start memorizing, which is awesome. And then while they're memorizing, I oftentimes give them my full papers that have all the eyes and stuff like that on it. Let me quickly show that to you. All right, here are the eyes that I have, and I have them start cutting these out so that people can just grab and find what they want. Then here's all the lips, my mustaches, the inside of the mouth, that's for the bottom of their mouth and their tongues, and then shapes, accessories. They cut all of those out, and then these ones they don't cut out. These are the individual pieces for all the kids for their hair, and it has that jawline. And then I have hats, and they can cut the hat off and put it on the puppet, like this one right here. That one right here is this one, and then I just have that hat with this hair. And yeah, I did not put a tongue in there. I just put the bottom of her mouth. So they have a lot of different options to choose from. You can always go and find clip art or different kinds of puppets all over the place. So I include these ones in my lessons because it just makes life easy. And then this is the bottom part, so they know how big they should be coloring on or cutting out and putting accessories on, so that they know the size. If you do print these, most of the puppet show companions that I've gotten, like the packs of these type of things, say make sure you print it to actual size. Don't let it adjust for printing it in the printable area and things like that. It'll print, it's small enough, it'll print in a printable area anyway, but they want the edges of this paper right here to be in a printable area, and it will shrink it down and it won't fit on your paper bag puppets. So learned that from experience from buying these type of puppets from other creators on Etsy and Teachers by Teachers, and didn't fit. And I'd email them and be like, hey, what happened? And they're like, oh, just have it on actual size. That makes sense. Okay. So after we do these and we have creation days, then we go into character voice. Now, if you're an elementary school teacher or you're an English teacher and you're not worried about voice as much, then you can skip. I will put a link, a timestamp of where you want to jump to skip the how to create a character with your voice. But for parents doing homeschool with older kids, or if you're teaching a speech class or a drama class, then I would definitely recommend doing a character voice. So let's jump on over there. So right here, we talk about, this is the beginning terms. So this is what I do with my youngest kids doing theater. So we first define the word, sorry, I have to laugh. We first define the word terms, because they're like, well, what are theater terms or voice terms anyway? And this is the first unit I teach. I don't do movement before this, so they don't know what terms are. So the definitions of the words we use, those are the terms. And then our vocal qualities are the things that we can change in our voice. So what is our goal today? We will watch a video on the next slide to see what we are hoping to accomplish today, which is having fun with our voices. And then we watch this. She is the one who does singing, and then they call on, they have a dice and they call different voices that she does, like Sari and things like that, and goes into those different styles of singing as soon as she hits that dice. So fun to watch. All right, and then we go over voice. So I have to go pick up my kid from school. I'll be back. All right, hi, we're back. I'm gonna have to pause in 30 minutes to try to get to get my other son from elementary school. So I'm gonna try to be mildly quick, but super accurate. So here the human voice is sound. It's this combination of air, sound, and shape that allows us to communicate. If you don't have any of these, you cannot use your voice. So the first one is air. Our air helps us create sound waves. Sound waves carry the sound to other people's ears, allowing them to hear us. The next slide explains the sound waves. We won't watch the video again because I'm just showing you what I say so that you know what to say. But this is a science video, and it shows the molecules like traveling to different places. And then I actually do an activity as soon as we are done with this, where I have two students, one that I tell to take two students come to the front of the classroom, and I tell one to take little teeny steps to go towards the door, and the other one to take really big steps to go towards the door. They're allowed to take 4 steps, and then we see who goes farther. And we talk about how deep voices and deep sound waves travel farther, and high pitched, shallow waves travel shorter. So that's why the boys in the class, that their voices are changing. They get so red and embarrassed when I mention this, but that if your voices are changing, all of a sudden your teachers are going to say, hey, why are you talking so much, when you might not be talking more than you used to be talking. It's just that your sound waves are carrying out the class a little bit easier. And it's kind of a fun real world example. And then we go to force and say we are using our diaphragm to control the amount of air pressure behind the voice. And then we talk about how it would have been different if I would have pushed each of these students, but they were still only allowed to take the amount of steps they were allowed to take, like the width of their step was the width of their step was allowed to be the same. But if I'm pushing them, they travel through the air further to get to each spot. And that's what air pressure and force can do to your voice, but it won't make your voice automatically go to the end of the cafeteria. You need to use more than just force. And then we watch this video. This is about 7 seconds, and it just watches the lungs fill up with air and expand, and the diaphragm push down, and then it pushes it back out. I always preface it with, okay, now sit back and relax. We got a little bit of a break video. And then they're always like, what? 7 seconds? And I'm like, I know. Like, I don't know. It's fun. Okay, then volume. This is the amount of sound or loudness in the voice. So this is how much sound and how much loudness you are bringing in your voice. Projection is how far your voice travels, the distance, how far you can throw it. And then the other one is, oh, no. So we talk, I knew exactly what I did wrong. Okay, so we talk about volume. It is the amount of sound or loudness in the voice. I have the entire class put their hands up, and we kind of hum, and I'm trying to get them to hum loud enough that we can feel the vibrations in our fingertips, and then it fills up the room, and we can kind of feel it bouncing off the walls. And we talk about the way that it bounces off the walls. There will, of course, be a few students that say, well, I can't feel it. And I was like, well, then you've got to be the one to be a little bit louder. But we keep our lips closed so that it doesn't travel to the other classrooms. But if I was teaching this to individuals, or when I've done it, when I've worked one-on-one with students, I've talked to them about going into a space that doesn't have carpet and things like that. So we use our costume room, and they go in and they try to say their lines loud, and they should feel the vibrations coming off the wall back at them. So that's volume. It's filling up the space, and you want it to have the appropriate amount of volume for the space. So if you are in a big cathedral hall, your volume has to be more than if you're in the classroom, because it's just a smaller space. So if I was super loud in our classroom, it would make it, notification. If I was super loud in our classroom, it would make it so you felt like I was yelling at you. What is going on? Okay. So if I was super loud in our classroom, it would make it feel like I was yelling at you. So you want your volume to be appropriate to this amount of space you have. And then I give an example where I am talking in a lot of volume and I am just filling up a space. And they're like, oh, my ears. I'm like, yeah, but I'm actually not screaming at you. I just have too much volume for the space. And you don't want your audience to feel that. And that sometimes if they're a little more advanced in asking questions, which a lot of times they do, they're like, well, what if you're supposed to yell? I'm like, yes, but yell appropriate for the amount of space you're taking. You don't want to bust people's eardrums out. You want it to sound like a yell in the space appropriate for where you're at. Then projection is how far your voice can travel. So it's like we are at a football game and we have our friend across the way and we're trying to throw our voice. So with that, I tell them to tighten their cheeks a little bit and just have their mouth in kind of an ooh, and we try ooh, and we try to get further and farther. And then we go higher, and we just kind of talk about the vibration and how it's different. And we if you have time. Some of my classes that are smaller, I've had the chance to have them stand up and try this outside or down the hallway, but also most of the time my classes are 36 and I just can't do it. So I really enjoy projection and teaching them that. We go into pitch, highs and lows, and then we talk about how their pitch is unique to them. And so I ask, if you get a phone call from your mom, before you look at the name, do you know it's your mom? If you do, that might be have to do some with her pitch because she sounds like her, and that we sound different when we're recording ourselves than we do in real time. My voice personally sounds deeper in my recordings. And then, this is my favorite part, I talk about how in my teaching in my classroom, I actually don't use my real voice. And they're always like, what? Why don't you use your real voice? And I'm like, well, because we talked about how lower pitch voices carry further, and I'm wanting to create a presence and make you feel safe and like I've got you. So I actually talk a little bit deeper than I do in my everyday conversations with my husband or with my children. And they always ask me to do my normal voice. And I'm doing my lower voice right now. I think I'm really used to it when I'm teaching, even though I have the microphone, so you do not need me to. But I shake out my throat a little bit and I relax. And then I talk like this. And this is where I talk normally. I actually have a little bit of strain on my throat when I talk that deep. But I tell them that if I were to talk like this to my husband, and if I were to feel the richness of my voice, he generally would think he's in trouble or like what I'm saying is super important, which I want my students to feel like what I'm saying is important, but I don't really need my husband to think that to everything I say. So I'm just a little bit more relaxed. It makes my muscles a little bit more relaxed and chill, and I can talk longer this way. So I think that's also why I get really tired in my voice the first few weeks of teaching, is because I am lowering it a little bit. All right, so then we go to articulation, and a big fancy word that means talking, forming the sounds of the voice into words. On the next slide, we will look at the difference between articulation of countries. Nope. We'll look at how different countries articulate different words. Trying to learn Spanish, my English is going down. It's fine. It's fine. All right. So I'm not going to play the video again, but here is the different countries that we look at. And this video is so brilliant. It says the word above them that they're pronouncing, and then they pronounce it in the different ways. The kids always get a kick out of it. And then I usually, just for fun, if I have time, which I usually make time for this one, I play it a second time and we try to do the different accents, which the kids get a kick out of and I get a kick out of. So that's a good time. But if you've got some troublemakers in your class that won't stop talking after you allow them to start, I do not recommend that because they will not stop. All right. Then we've got clarity. The clearer you speak, the faster you can speak and be understood. So how clearly you form your words. And again, they're taking notes for me on all of these so that it pulls them back in pretty quick from the activities. So I talk about when I was in high school, I did cross country and I would call my mom to have her pick me up, but I would talk so fast that she couldn't understand me, specifically because I was out of breath and I wasn't speaking very clearly because I was tired because I just ran 7 miles. So I can talk really, really, really fast, but I have to talk really, really, really clear or people cannot understand me. Or I can choose to do an accent. And if I choose any accent that is not my own, I'm from Utah. So if it's not my own accent, then I do need to slow down so that I can be more clear, which is where our next thing comes into, rate. We talk about rate, how fast or slow you talk. And then we also right here say the speed of your speech. So make sure your audience can understand you. So with understanding you, again, with the accents, you do just have to slow down. When I am talking to the students one-on-one, I talk clearly, I talk slowly, and I look at them in the eye to make sure I'm understood. I try to explain to them, this is not me trying to talk down to anybody. It's trying to make sure that my brain isn't processing faster than their brains can. Wait, that I am not. Oh. Hello? All right. So I just talk about making sure their audience understands them. And then at this point, I usually, because I've played with my rate of speech and my clarity a bit, I have to stretch my jaw out, slow down, and talk about tone. So this is what gives your voice different attitudes or expressions. So I have a little quote up here, don't use that attitude, or just, oh my gosh, you guys. Okay, don't use that tone with me. So I'm like, have you ever heard somebody say, don't use that tone with me? When was it? Have you ever tried to stop using a tone when you are using a tone? How does that feel? Can you stop using a tone once you've started? And for the most part, my students say no. Like once I get frustrated, that's my tone. And you can tell I'm frustrated. And so I talk about why we do that. So for example, I tell, or so I, oh my gosh. Okay. So I tell them that when we get frustrated, stressed, or upset, our muscles in our neck and in our body gets more tense, and that changes the sound of our voice. That's not the only thing that makes the people have a tone, but when you can't shake off your tone, oftentimes if you stretch a little bit, like your neck and stuff, you can calm yourself down enough to not use that tone. That's what I use as a teacher when my tone is getting a little bit harsh, because I've had the same question 800 times in the past 4 minutes from 3 students. So my tone will get more upset and I will stretch my neck out and relax my muscles and relax my chin a little bit and try to get rid of my tone because I don't want to sound impatient even when I'm feeling it. And then expression, our greatest tool, or our greatest vocal tool as actors, the emotion and feeling behind our voice. All right, sorry if something changed really quick. I had to go get my kids from school, and so I came back, and hopefully you cannot hear them in the background. They are just having a snack and watching some Bluey. So I'm going to try to quickly but efficiently go through the rest of these voice slides. So right over here, I take a break. I've talked a lot, and usually I'm pretty tired at this point teaching throughout the day. And so this is a little video from Inside Out. It's not the entire video. It's just the little clip of where the emotions come. It's kind of a nice way to wrap up day one. My classes are 55 minutes, 53 to 55 minutes long. And so this kind of hits at a good point where then it's time to wrap up as soon as this is done. They gather their backpacks. If I have extra time, I do move on to the next slide, but I usually, this is usually the point where I stop and do tomorrow's stuff tomorrow. So vocal qualities. How can we do our emotions in our voice using the vocal qualities that we have talked about? So we do a quick recap from yesterday right here. So there's projection, distance your voice travels, and then we pause for a minute and say, okay, so how does the emotion behind the voice change when you project really far or when you keep it really quiet into yourself? It can still be the same volume. You could still even have the same volume, but that throwing the voice really means something. So I don't know if it's going to pick up in my microphone, but that's what I'm doing. And I do the example with them. And then we go into their volume, loud and quiet, and what that means to the emotion of the character and how we do different things differently. So for example, my grandma, when she got quiet, you knew you were in trouble. But for me, when I'm loud, you're in trouble. Or sometimes I'm just loud. But it's different for each person. So think about who you are and what this does to relate to you, to them, but to you. And pitch right here. So highs and lows, and how do you know like when to use what and what do the low tones mean? Not as in the low tones for boys versus girls or whatever when your voice is changing, but in your emotions. Gets a little more specific. And then clarity. So if you have a character that's really upset and crying, how can you be understood and not have as much clarity? It's actually usually your rate. Slow it down. Or if your character is really uptight, how would their clarity and rate differ? And then the last one, expression. So the motion behind the voice. And then we take a little break, usually for me to like get my head on straight for the day. So we go over a couple things, then I sit down and take a breath because sometimes the class I teach before I teach this is exhausting and I need emotional break because that's a little bit hard. And so we watch the bloopers behind Inside Out. It's the making of, and we just watch the actors acting out the characters we just watched. I absolutely love this. And then afterwards, we talk about, okay, so how were their bodies and how did that affect their voices? Because you can see very clearly in this show that there's a direct connection. As actors, we know there's a direct connection between our bodies and our voices. And I tell them, we are just worrying about voices because we're doing a puppet show, but put a pin in this because we are going to talk about movement for our next unit, which is pantomimes. So after that, we go into vocal mechanisms. So the physical mechanics behind the body producing the sound. This is a little different than choir. If you're a choir teacher and you're doing this kind of a unit, we're going to overlap a ton in the stuff. The kids always tell me, oh, the choir teacher taught us that. And I'm like, okay, then you need to comment. So the first one thing I'd let them know is the ones that are circled are their answers for this portion. I have my students flip the paper over and they have this as their worksheet. So getting into it, we have the first one, which is the lips. How we use these to shape our words. Next, teeth. We use these to shape our words. Also, all of this is shaping our words. So how do we shape the words with our teeth? How do we shape the words with our lips? And I kind of just look for them to give me responses. If I'm having a hard time getting responses, I do give extra credit for responses to help encourage responses. And I just mark it on my seating chart who's responded. And it also keeps track of me making sure I pay attention to everyone in the class and not just picking the person that has the best eye contact, because that is where my eyes go. And then we have the tongue. Now, these three things, they don't usually question me with how this shapes our words. The next two, we get more questions. But right here, I do very clearly talk about the different syllables and the different sounds that we make using these three items. So we talk about T's, S's, R's. We do the sound, and then we talk about where is the tongue, where's the teeth, where's the lips. This really is effective if you have speech kids in your class. It helps them tie speech into everyday life, but also they'll be able to answer these questions. And a lot of times those are my quieter kids. And so it allows them to show off their knowledge, which I love from my little quiet kids. Then we have the hard palate and the soft palate. Here's the questions. So they talk a lot about what's the differences. And I have them take their tongue and touch their hard palate just right behind their teeth. And notice that it doesn't move. It's hard. And then if you go a little further back, take the back of your tongue and touch the top of your mouth. Don't choke yourself. But that's your soft palate. It'll go up and down depending on your face and what you're doing with it. So we move our soft palate, and if they don't understand how to move the soft palate, I tell them first try raising your eyebrows. That's what opera singers do to try to give them that power to raise that soft palate. And if it still doesn't work, then we move your tongue down. Try to take a breath like you're going to blow up a balloon, or for some of the kids, referring to it as a balloon that they're blowing up and you're trying to remove all the space to create the biggest cavity is the way to go. Generally, with those three different options, I get all the kids knowing what the soft palate is. And then we talk about the different sounds that we use, like what would D sound like if we were trying to do it from our teeth. And we try it, D, V, and does not sound right. So hence, it shapes our words. After that, we go into the things that help us with projection. So what we use to help our voices become megaphones. How do we project? How can someone get so loud? They say they don't know how they get so loud, but then if you hear them in the hallways, you're like, yeah, you know how, you just don't understand the mechanics behind it. So we've got the oral cavity, and again, we raise the soft palate, put the tongue down, and we try to make that cavity as big as possible. And I talk about how that leads this air up here that we're going to talk about in a moment into a bigger area. So this will be all open, and then it comes out your lips, which closes, which makes the megaphone shape. And then we also talk about the oral or the nasal cavity. We just did the oral cavity. Okay, the nasal cavity. So right here with the nasal cavity, this is my favorite part of this lesson, and let me tell you why. I talk to them about, okay, so when you have allergies or you're sick, how there's a lot of snot that comes out of your nose. Where does that snot come from? Do you feel like you have an endless supply of snot? Because you kind of do. And then we go through like, okay, so how big is our oral cavity? And we go from our temples down to our nose. We open up and it goes right back here, like behind our eyes, just a teeny bit right here, and how much space there is in there. I watched a doctor do this with talk about how big the nasal cavity is and what it consists of. But when I get to talk about the snot, the kids are all grossed out and then they remember that forevermore, and I love it. So we talk about that, and then we talk about how you can talk more nasally like this if you push the air out of your nose more, but you have to go slower or be clearer to be able to do that. Or what is it like if you only go through your mouth and you plug your nose? So we try plugging our nose and talking. We try covering our mouth a little bit and talking out of our nose. Just have some fun with it. And then we talk about our defense mechanisms, our defense system. So it helps protect us. We go over the uvula and we go over the epiglottis. And the uvula, I don't go too much into it. They already usually know quite a bit. I ask how much they know about it, and they usually know a significant amount and enough for me. But the epiglottis, a lot of times they do not know what that is. Let me move that. Okay. So I talk about choking, and I talk about that covering your other pipe, because they always talk about, oh, it went down the wrong pipe. Do you know that there's two pipes in your throat, and how we use both of them, and just get into a small discussion about that. And then usually it gets brought up into choking, because that is where I'm at with middle schoolers. And we talk about how, if it projectiles out of your body, oftentimes this will kind of push down and get flung out of the mouth. And that's what makes it kind of intense if it flies out of your mouth. And if not, it'll just kind of push it up and can kind of come in here. I don't know why we always get on that, but we do. And I, again, got that information from the doctor video that I watched. So I hope it's factually correct. If it isn't, and I'm telling the kids something that isn't correct, let me know down below and I will stop doing that. But that is what the video said. So, all right. And then we've got our larynx, and that it vibrates to produce sound. And then we get a little bit closer we get a little bit closer view of it. And I talk about how this is the view if there was a camera down your throat of it opening and closing right there. So this view right here is not correct. I just didn't know how else to indicate it. And then this is if it was going down your throat, and it vibrates to produce sound. And we talk about like pulling grass or paper tight between your fingers and then blowing on it, and how the tension creates the vibration that makes sound. And then how to get loud. And we take this one and run with it. So we go over the air pressure and force system, and I tell them that, of course, it matters if your mouth is open, like, look how small of an area there is if we close our mouth, that there's no way to push the air out easily except through our nasal passages, which does not really produce as much sound and makes us obviously sound nasally. So we've got the trachea, and that is the pipe that is the air pipe. It goes down to the lungs, and it has the larynx in it. So yeah, and that the epiglottis protects the larynx, and that's one of the reasons it hurts if things get down that pipe. Nope. Yes. Okay. Sorry. And then we have the lungs right here, and the diaphragm. And I have them find their diaphragm by just putting their hands on underneath their like ribs right here area, and kind of taking deep breaths in and finding that. And yeah. So next, how does it all work together? All the stuff I just described, there is a video about. So if you don't want to describe all the stuff I just did, now I do relate it obviously to drama and to emotions when I am talking about it. But for those of you that have not done the research on this, because I did, so there you go. This is the best video that I have found. And so I colored my images that I got on Canva to be matching this video so that it was a little bit easier for the kids to relate. Here is the picture of the voice. They actually have it's cartoon images, which I like for junior high. I remember one of my teachers showed us a camera going down the throat and talking of someone that was a real person when I was in high school, and I thought that was absolutely great, and I thought it was the best thing ever. But for middle school, they already get a little bit crazy. So we do cartoon versions, but they actually show the person talking and show what the camera is showing. They just do it a little bit cartoony. So, um, and they can see how that all works together. And then now that you know the vocal qualities, take a look at the next video to see what you can accomplish when it works together, mastering your voice. So we do one more video, getting a break for me before I have to get up and help them get their projects together. So I stop teaching at this point. I put my papers to the side and I get basically the puppets and all of their stuff, make sure it's all out and everything's organized for them while they're watching this little video of different voice actors doing different parts. So it's really good. And you can see the facial expressions and then we talk about it afterwards. And then they have a little spot in their notes on my papers to write down. Oh, sorry, it's over here. To write down what they learned from this. So here's all of their notes. So yeah, it's really a fun activity that we do with them. And then we move on to, where is it? Sorry. Then we move on to group rehearsals. So we do this over a couple of days. They get their papers out. We talk about how are you going to create your voice. They practice it for a few minutes. On the second day, I always have a little bit of time left over for them to practice with their group. And then right here, these group rehearsal days, we are done creating. So our puppets are made, our scripts are done. If they're on the computers, I usually just let them bring the computers down because I don't want to print everything off. But if they aren't, I make copies of the handwritten scripts. And sometimes I do, if I don't have a class that has too many kids in it, I do copy scripts and print them for everybody and have them highlight them. It just depends on what my days are looking like. When I'm doing the after school plays, there's no chance of this. So I just let them use their scripts on their computers. And then we do that for 2 days. My classes again are about 55 minutes. So it's almost 2 hours of rehearsal time. And they've already been kind of rehearsing up here. And then we have a preview day. Preview day is for me to see if they're memorized. So I generally let them choose their partners. I have them spread out around the cafeteria, and then I just watch them do their shows, and I walk around and mark down everyone that I see that is memorized. If they're not memorized, afterwards I call those people to a group and I go over my memorization techniques. I'll show you the video real quick there. Okay, so on my channel, I made this video right here. It's part of a series that I'll be continuing. This is my first video of it, but it's basically anything that these videos are going to be anything that I wish I could find on YouTube for teaching my students and can't. I don't have a beginning and an ending, like a little introduction and like a conclusion or thank you for watching. I have a little slide that says, thanks, please subscribe so I can continue making content, but that's the farthest I go so that this is easy to link or have students just watch. And this one is just a memorization one. So I won't play the whole thing, but um, yeah. So I have them watch this and we talk about kinesthetic, visual, and auditory learning strategies. I have them kind of identify what theirs is. I like this video because all the videos I found about these techniques were really long. So I did a really quick 4-minute video about all the different memorization techniques. And I talk while they do the little drawings to help keep the kids entertained. Okay, so after we do that, they have the time to work on their scripts. Kids that aren't memorized, memorize / they stay on there in the same area that I'm in the cafeteria, so I can help them through it. Sometimes, especially with kids that are special needs, I have them cut their scripts down and I just say, I'm excusing the time that you're expected to do the script because this is really hard for you. Or I allow them to use their script because there's a few kids that's just the panic that sets in that they just can't keep things memorized. This is their first big full show performance with drama. I do improv scenes and then we do puppet shows. So I want this to be a really great experience for them. I want everything I do to be a great experience for them, let's be honest. But I try to be super chill and happy about whatever you bring to the table, I am happy with and I will work with. So that's kind of the vibes for especially drama 1, but really all of my classes. So then we have performing for the class. I do this super formal. We have a lecture hall at our school, so it has cafeteria or like auditorium seating, and there's people in the front. I usually do not give them microphones, but for puppet shows, sometimes I do stick one microphone just backstage with them because I have fabric that is between them and us as the audience, and we know that eats sound. So I do allow them to use one mic when we are using that fabric. When I used to have it as like a little box that they would be behind, I didn't let them do that. So, yeah, after that, for me, since I'm drama teacher, we do a voice test, and my voice test is um, there's two different ones. This one, they actually, oh no, sorry, that's not it. Here we are. So this one, they just fill out the first words to the definitions, and then we fill in this chart for them. When I was teaching this to ninth grade, I did not make it this easy on them. Instead of filling out the word, then having the definition right here, I did have them do the word bank right here, and there's the word, and then they had to fill in the definitions over here. So that is what I did. I included that in my stuff, but I don't do it with seventh. I have seventh and eighth grader. Nope, I have sixth and seventh graders. I don't do it with my sixth and seventh graders. That was a very, very long video to talk about puppets and what I do. I hope this helped all of you out there that needed to know exactly at least what I say, and then you can, of course, make it your own. So if you do choose to support me and purchase my Teachers Pay Teacher scripts, there's going to be links in the description below. I have one that's puppetry for elementary school, which is where the ones that are connected are and where my scripts are at, the little Mad Lib scripts. I have one that is just a puppet show that doesn't have the voice information in it. And then I also have the puppet show plus voice if you are a drama teacher or a speech teacher and you want the voice included. I'm going to also create a video probably from this of how I teach voice separately. If you see a video pop up on my YouTube that's beginning voice, just know it came from this, and you probably have no reason to watch both of them. So you've already seen my beginning voice, but stay tuned for my intermediate and advanced voice. Yeah, that is what I do. Thank you so much for staying till the end and supporting me. And I hope this helps. If you have questions, comments, let me know what you do. Let me know how you do it. Ask me questions. I would love to create a community here that is us trying to help each other, homeschool parents, drama teachers, English teachers, after school programs, to help build up more. This took me a really long time to learn, and I didn't perfect it until after I had a couple of kids and had to write some maternity lessons and things like that. But also, if you have that knowledge and I give it to you and you start, this is your starting point, I can't even imagine how much you can grow. And I'm sure that I think it's perfect now. And then by the end of this year, I'll change something and add something. But yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate you and your support.